And so for me, unlocking unlimited potential means you see the problem, but pass the problem to the potential and you call them up to it.
Unlocking unlimited potential means to me finding the best in yourself so you can actually help inspire that in others.
Unlocking unlimited potential means the work is not about you. It's about seeing the greatness in others and using your own story and your own vulnerability to unleash the potential that others have.
It means taking fear, doubt, and worry, those gremlins that are whispered in your ear, invite them in, make them some coffee, tell them to have a seat, and tell them that they're gonna watch you get after it. Fear, doubt, and worry has to be managed.
Don't settle. Be open to the possibilities of what you can do.
It's hard enough to get a student to see who they are, but now try to get them to see who they can become. And that will make all the difference in the world.
That I understand that I am enough.
Empowering yourself to own your story.
As an educator, when that young man, that young woman walks across the stage, that for all intents and purposes was not supposed to be there, if that doesn't bring a tear to your eye and pull on your heart a little bit, then you don't need to be in this profession.
Well, I want you to know that inside of you exists an unlimited potential, and I believe in it. And one reason that I believe in it is because inside of us is a potential that once we learn how to control it and harness it and live it with passion, that we'll be able to spread it through our schools and our classrooms and through our communities and into our world like wildfire. Join me on the journey as we explore together unlocking unlimited potential. And I can't wait to be on this journey with you.
All right. Welcome to the Unlocking Unlimited Potential Stories show. I am so excited to be here with my special guest, Principal Barute Kafele. How are you doing, Baruti?
I'm great. I'm on fire, ready to go.
You are absolutely on fire. I've been trying to tracing you around for a while, trying to figure out a time that this would work. And I'm so excited that you were able to join us finally and share your story because, I remember a little while ago, we had a show with Manny Scott, and Manny Scott was telling me all about you. And I've had heard about you so much before that. And you've been around for 35 years in the business. You've been a principal. You are now on the speaking game. You've written over 12 books, and 8 of those came from ASCD, which you just told me as well. And you have just such an unbelievable career. And now more than ever, I just seem to be, whether it's just the social media gods, but I just seem to be coming across you all the time because the work that you're doing is so inspiring and helping schools. So appreciate you being here. How are you today?
I'm good. It's just good to be alive and good to be above water, so to speak. It's been rough weather-wise here for the past few weeks. So
yeah, absolutely. You're in Jersey. I'm in New York. We've had quite a past couple of days with flooding and crazy things going on. So hopefully everybody near you is doing well and doing okay.
Right. Made a recovery.
Absolutely. So, I can't even put into like sentences your story, because as I look through your story, you've been doing this, you've put in over 2,000 presentations around the world, around the globe. You have over 150 educational community awards. And there is even a day named after you in Texas, the Barute Kafele Day, which I think is pretty amazing. So I don't even know where to start, but where would you start when you start talking about your journey and how you've gotten to where you are today?
I typically start with day one, my first day as a teacher in Brooklyn, New York City. In the Crown Heights section. That's where it all started for me. I went there. I didn't know anything about teaching and education, lesson planning, nothing. But I knew I wanted to be in the classroom teaching young people. I didn't go to undergrad school for education. I studied marketing. And once I was in corporate America, I knew from probably the first week that this was not the place for me. So I figured out that school was where I needed to be. So went on and got myself hired, got myself certified, and went on and did it. And I enjoyed it. It was a struggle. It was a challenge. It was not easy because, you know, again, I'm learning on the job. No dress rehearsal, no student teaching, just going in there. So then I liked it. They asked me to come back. So I went on back home to Jersey, which is, you know, I'm a Jerseyite. I'm not a New Yorker at all. So came on back home to Jersey and started the process over again. And I've been riding this wave ever since.
And so you kind of went through the whole story there. You kind of started in one place. You started with one idea in your mind as to where you planned on going in kind of corporate America. And then what was that change for you? What made you kind of be like, you know what, I want to go this complete different route into education? Yeah,
you know, New York City was interesting. I knew I wanted to try out teaching. So going to New York at that time, New York had a severe shortage of teachers. They were practically hiring folks if they could breathe, you know, and I'm exaggerating, but you needed a bachelor's degree in any area. And I had a bachelor's degree. So they brought you in if you were interested and gave you an essay and a 2-question oral examination. And if you passed, they said, go find a school. I mean, it was that simple. So I said, okay, New Jersey is going to be a little bit tougher. Of course, that's putting youngsters at a disadvantage that it's that easy. But they had no teachers during those times in the 80s, the late 80s. So I went on in there, got it that easily. You know, I went to a school to meet with a principal, and the principal said, can you start tomorrow? This was in November. You know, it wasn't like it was in the summer getting ready. The teacher had made his transition. He died. So a very popular teacher. So they said to me, are you ready to start tomorrow? And I wasn't expecting that. I said, okay, yeah, I'm ready. And that's what it was. So it was a tough year. You know, there's nothing about that year that I'm proud of, but I do hear from some of the students from time to time. You know, they're in their 40s now. They were 5th graders. And, you know, but then I knew that I was going to get better. So going back home or coming back home to Jersey, and now having the reset, I was able to mentally prepare for it over a period of time. Because one of the things that I don't talk about often, you know, people that know me know that I didn't just go right into it. I came back to Jersey and said, let me be a sub, a building-based sub. So I was in one school the whole year and just getting myself acclimated to various different classes, various different grade levels, and then had the audacity to write a book after that year of subbing called The Black Parent's Handbook to Educating Your Children Outside of the Classroom. Because one of the things that I discovered in those first 2 years, but particularly that sub year in New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey, which is the city that produced me, I might add, born and raised. I said, man, if the parents were involved more so than what I've detected this year, the probability for young people to be successful would increase exponentially. So me having let's see, I had my wife was pregnant with my first son, and I decided I want to write this book. Once he was born and I became Mr. Mom, while he slept, I wrote all day, every day, and eventually wrote this book, hustled it on the streets of New York and New Jersey. It eventually became the Essence magazine #1 bestseller, and it wasn't sold in not one mainstream bookstore. But it was just grind, working hard, you know, making it happen. And then so I rode that out for about 2 years and then returned and went to the classroom for that reset in 1992.
Wow. What an amazing story. So
living on New York City subways with a box on my shoulders and literally just putting this book in the hands of people that walk past me, selling it for $5, you know, and that's the part that people don't see. They see now, right? But they don't understand what it took to get to the level that I am now as a presenter.
And you wrote that book after only being in the classroom for how many years, did you say?
Yeah, just 1 year as a teacher and 1 year as a substitute teacher.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. But the thing is, like I tell folks, I say it wasn't written from the vantage point of an educator. It was written from the vantage point of a college student. In other words, here I graduated summa cum laude. Nobody saw that coming because that wasn't who I was as a high school student. So it came out of nowhere. That's a story in and of itself. However, I said those tactics that I used to become this 4.0 student are transferable to a parent at home with a child. So that was the perspective I was coming from, not the perspective of the educator, because I quite frankly, didn't have the experience being the educator from that vantage point just yet.
Yeah. And I wonder how many people that follow you now have read that book or have seen that book, right?
Yeah. The old heads know about it.
Yeah.
But this younger generation, they wouldn't know anything about it because I don't even sell it anymore. I took it off the market because I needed to revise it, but never took the time to revise. It's self-published. My first 4 books were self-published, and that's a whole for those of the folks that will see this out there. That self-publishing is a different animal from being published. Being published, you got the publisher; they're going to do all the legwork. I just got to be on social media, keeping it relevant, and when I'm out on the road. But the self-publishing, that's a business. That's a full-time job. So it's very, if your book's going to be a bestseller, which that book became, it's a full-time job. You're doing everything. You're doing the promotion. You're doing the distribution. You're doing everything. You know? So yeah. So.
And that's clear. That's also happening nowadays in your work. You know, you're getting out there, you're making these connections, you're getting into schools, and you're creating these relationships that you've created over the past, 35 years because of the work of this one particular book. And what I love about your story is that it's not the story that all of us would think that really is how you got to this point. Most people would think, oh, well, he was a really great administrator and a great teacher, and then he just did this, and then he wrote a book because he had all this great knowledge. But no, you were like, after a year or a little bit more of a year, you said, you know what, I have a book inside me, and I'm not going to wait. So many people wait to write that book, and for you, it was just dive right in, and the hustle that you put on to make it happen is just amazing. It's an amazing story. Let's dive into some of your work currently, though, because I think, recently, in light of, a lot of the events in, 2020 and 2021, you've been tapped on the shoulder to come in and talk about, race and equity and culturally responsiveness. And I know that when, your name is shared in a lot of circles, that's kind of what a lot of people talk about is, he's the best for this because of, the work he's doing. You have a statement that you have actually on your Twitter profile, which I think is kind of cool. It's kind of a little reverse on the old saying, and, let's get uncomfortable with being comfortable. And I think that kind of speaks about you a little bit. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. When I tell people all the time, if you see me getting comfortable, complacent, if you see me inside the box, so to speak, the proverbial box, snatch me out. I don't want to be in there. I want to stay in the uncomfortable spaces because that's where the growth comes. It's like for years, people referred to me. I don't think I ever really embraced this title, but people referred to me as a motivational speaker. And I just kind of ran with it. So then over time, I'd see my name on flyers and so forth, motivational speaker. And I guess as I got older and got grayer and wiser, I said, that title is not good. It's good for people that's who they are. I said, but that's really not what I do. I found a way to be inspiring, delivering difficult content. So therefore, if someone wants to say, okay, he's very inspiring, he's motivational, fine. But that's not what I do. It's just a method to get from point A to point B. So I said, instead of being a motivational speaker, I created a title. I used to use it on the website, but I think it was confusing people that didn't know the rationale behind it. And what it was, I said, I'm America's discomfort speaker. right? So people would see that, and I guess they was like, what's he mean? Is this the guy we want? So I said, let me take that down. But I still embrace it, meaning that my role is not to go in and get you pumped up and inspired per se, because that inspiration typically will last until the conference, that day of the conference is over, or even maybe after the keynote. And then once people get back to the car or back outside in the lobby of the convention center, whatever it is, they may not be thinking about that message anymore, right? It was great in the moment. But discomfort, on the other hand, when a presenter can put out good content, inspiring content, but it makes somebody feel like, this guy stung me, man, like that hurt, like, ouch. That's going to stay with you, because it's like you felt that. And now this person spoke to me in a way that he made me think about what I thought I was doing something right, but now he put it in a way that makes me question, am I doing this thing the way I should be doing, or am I doing it at an optimal level? So I say, yeah, I want folks to feel some tension, some uneasiness, some discomfort within their comfort. And now it's easier to make that shift than if we go in there reinforcing what you right. Yeah, Kafele, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's what that's all about. Let's get uncomfortable with being comfortable, and let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So the difficult conversations of diversity, equity, inclusion, race, social justice, education, those are not comfortable conversations for everybody in a room. Some folks like I'm about time, some of us say, including myself, but others is like, I don't know about this conversation. So, but if it can be crafted in a way that, okay, I guess I can have it, right? And then having the vision that perhaps on the other side, I will be better as a result of being a part of this conversation. So let's step out of that comfort zone, and let's step into that uncomfortable or that discomfort zone, and let's see where that takes us, while still remaining friends and allies, and not getting to the point where now we're adversaries because we had the tough conversation. So as a principal for 14 years, I had to engage my staff in those difficult conversations, because that's what was going to bring about the kind of change that we needed to see. Not everybody, having the conversation where we're all feeling good and comfortable in the things that we should not be feeling comfortable with. So it's all strategic in terms of how we do that.
Yeah, no. And I think, as a white male myself, trying to kind of wrap my head around all of the things that have been happening in the past 18 months. But like I keep saying all the time, like it took a pandemic for us to kind of look in the mirror and say, like, all right, now all of a sudden races and equity conversations are important to have. Social emotional learning is now like something that we need to be having. But it goes back to what you're saying about being uncomfortable. Like the power is within all of us. And we just have to be able to embrace that and start somewhere, right? Like sometimes you just need to start with the conversation of, okay, well, I'm feeling this way and I'm acknowledging that I'm feeling this way. But what am I going to do to change that? For me, it's, I'm going to bring in guys like Manny Scott and Ken Williams and have the opportunity to talk to guys like that who are out there doing this kind of work, and yourself. But sometimes, a lot of educators, and I'm sure you run into it on the road when you're doing this work, people who are really uncomfortable in this place of race and having these conversations about race and equity and culturally responsiveness and identity, and just kind of your way as you've been running into this out in the road. And I know this is part of your platform. What is some of the suggestions that you give to those educators out there that are a little afraid of being uncomfortable?
Yeah, well, I say, if you're really serious about this work, if you're really serious about children and helping children to maximize their own potential, then we have to have this conversation. Because you take, for example, you reference you being a white male. There are teachers in schools with children that do not look like them. So, for example, Black children and non-Black teachers, which is actually the norm in America in most places. Because Black men, for example, represent less than 2% of the entire teaching force, and then Black women are about 6 to 7%. So they're not going to see a lot of teachers that look like them along racial ethnic lines. Now, I'm saying to the teacher, however, you can still be amazing with that youngster. But there's some things that you're going to have to learn that you probably did not pick up in undergraduate school. Like, I've got a library behind me. It's one of the libraries in this house. And I'm not going to go through what's there, but I will say this. There's not a book on these shelves that a teacher of Black children should not have in their home, right? Or have in their professional library. Right. These are all books just for educators, particularly of Black children. Yeah, I used to post a lot of them on my social media pages, but these are not books that you'd commonly see in a pre-service program. Right. These are not books that a teacher would just stumble on at the local bookstore. Right. Like for me, I'm an ASCD author, but I'm also a Black author. ASCD books are in your large local bookstore chains, but mine are not. I've never been in one of those chains in my life. They just won't sell my stuff, right? So although I got the letters ASCD on the spine of my books, and although the Equity and Social Justice 50 is the #1 seller with ASCD, those chains will not put my books on their shelves. They'll only sell them on a website. So therefore, the teacher that goes into the store to just browse and see what's in there, they're never going to stumble on my work, right? So if they're not going to stumble on my work, I do know that professors use my books in the university, but that doesn't mean that in all the programs, right? So chances are that teacher, my book or books by other Black authors, they're not going to come into contact with those books. So therefore, those answers that they are looking for, they're hidden in plain sight. But the teacher may not stumble on them because they're not in the stores that the teacher may frequent. And the teacher may not find them on the web. The teacher may not know what to look for on the web, right? So, it's just, so we have going back full circle with the equity conversation, that which I just said, that illustration I just gave, that's part of the discussion. Because when I tell that to folks, when I'm having a broader conversation, like, wait a minute, you're not in, I'm not going to name the names of stores, but the most popular ones, you're not in there? Nah. And every time I pass one, I will stop and go inside and ask, do you sell my books? And they'll say, oh, no, just on the website. Right. So, so that's kind of where it's at. So I even want people that are not African-American, that are not people of color, I want them to understand that dynamic. Like, because, and usually that's an eye-opener. Like, really? We know you. You've been in this thing for a long time. Your books are not in there? Mm-mm. My colleagues are, but not mine.
I wish I could say something that had some sort of value to make you feel better about that, but I don't have anything. That's something new for me too.
It's what it is. It's like I've accepted it. It's what it is, and I have to just do different. So, for example, you see a lot of people see me on social media a lot, and so I have to go that route. See, whereas my colleague, my colleague who is not Black, my white colleague, who we're at the same level in terms of recognition and stature, that type of thing in this industry. They may not have to go as hard on social media as I do, because their books are in all the stores, right? So where I don't have that, my reality is a different reality. As a matter of fact, so that teacher that says, I don't see color, I don't see culture. I'm like, well, you're doing the children a disservice. You have to see you have to see color, you have to see culture, because my reality, I don't have a human reality. I mean, part of my reality is human, but I have a Black man reality, right? And because of that, I have to know how to navigate and not let the reality of being a black man become a source of stress for me, but instead become a source of inspiration to want to continue to fight to change the reality that's out here. But if you lump me together and I don't see race, I don't see culture, I don't see ethnicity, I just see the children, then you're not preparing me for a world out there that's very real. That's going to be very different from that in the classroom.
Absolutely. That is absolutely a statement that I've heard over and over again. And to hear you say that, it just adds so much value to it. And I assume that a lot of these ideas are in your new book, your newest book, The Equity and Social Justice Education 50. I just so happened to notice that several of your books are 50s.
Yeah.
That's a great number. I know Manny Scott, his was 44. You guys have a lot of great ideas. Talk a little bit about your most recent book and, how it kind of takes into account some of the ideas you're talking about from a lot of the books on the shelf behind you.
Yeah, and just to give clarity to the listeners on the 50, I created this brand where I write books that have self-reflective questions, and there are 50 of them, with the exception of one. I did 35 because I didn't use the 50. It was called "Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It?" It was these 35 powerful questions, but all of the others have 50 self-reflective questions. So books that are driven by questions for the reader to look within oneself as they're reading the book. So the question and my commentary, and then we move on. So they do a lot of book studies around that. So here with the newest one, I had no intentions on writing this book. I had been writing a book a year for several years. And I said, the Assistant Principal 50, which was my last one, I said, there's no need to write a book. And then George Floyd becomes a part of our reality. Breonna Taylor becomes a part of our reality in terms of the murder of both of them. And I said, with all that's going on in America in the summer of 2020 in the streets of America, with the rallies and the protests and the marches and the demonstrations and the rebellions and so forth, I said, I have to write this book. Every other book I wrote, I wanted to write. This book, I felt like I kept trying to walk away from it. And my spirit kept saying, you have to write this. Because in my mind, in most of my mind, children were going to go back to school in September of 2020. But it turned out they didn't. I thought they would go back to school with a whole lot of questions about what's going on in the world as it relates to Black people specifically. But it turned out everything became virtual again. But I felt like I needed to write this book to say to teacher, when those children come into the schools, and not just Black children, because it wasn't just Black folks involved in the protest, but when children come back into school with questions and comments and concerns, etc., you need to be able to engage them in that discussion. That's why I wrote that book, right? So particularly the social justice side of the book, because really it's two books in one. It's the equity side and it's the social justice education side. And notice I'm using the word social justice education as opposed to social justice, right? And I know that there's a lot of people that will see that title and scratch their heads like, what is he talking about? Social justice education. And hopefully they go beyond the head scratch and buy the book as opposed to walk away from the book, thinking that it's not relevant, because social justice education is probably as relevant as math, science, language arts, and social studies. In fact, social justice education is those four subject areas and beyond when you talk about interdisciplinary. Right. So, that was the motivation behind writing it. I'm excited about the fact that the book just, went out of print the first week it was published. So they had to, nobody anticipated it. So it was off market for a few weeks until they were able to go back and do an emergency reprint. And, so now it's out there, but people are embracing it. And a lot of districts using it district-wide, schools using it school-wide. So, and I keep them short. I write short books. I keep them simple, easy to read, easy to follow. And, because educators are busy, and I just want them to be able to sit down and read my books and digest them. So that's the whole motivation behind the way I write them.
That's an awesome motivation. I've already ordered my copy. It's in the mail. I'm looking forward to it. It's something. So for people out there, if they want to, because we want to make sure they know where to get these, because based on what you just said, I want to make sure they can all go to the right place. Where's the best place for them to do that? Should it be your website?
Yeah, the main place is principalkafele.com, as you see on the screen, folks. That will link you to Amazon and ASCD. So you can order there, and it'll go directly to whichever is your choice. But you can go to other outlets as well. You know, wherever you like buying your books, they usually carry them online, right? But not when you go there physically, right? So, but that's how you get them. And then also, you know, you can follow me on Twitter at Principal Kafele, same spelling that you see there. Facebook, 2 words, Principal Kafele. But also, I'm online. I have an academy called the Virtual AP, Assistant Principal Leadership Academy, every Saturday morning at 10:55. It's really 11, but I do shout outs at 10:55. And this was just a little COVID thing I was doing. You know, we were all at home in shelter. And I said, let me spend 18 weeks doing this from May to August. And then, you know, I'll be done, you know, just putting out free information. Free game, as they say, for aspiring assistant principals. And I started it off. And next thing I knew, it was beyond just the aspiring and the assistant. It was the principals were on there, the teachers were on there, the superintendents were on there, assistant superintendents, and even commissioners of education were watching. So it kind of took off in a way that I hadn't anticipated. And now I'm in week number 72. Coming up this Saturday, which was only supposed to be 18 weeks. So 72 consecutive weeks. I have not missed a week, even when I'm on the road. I do it in a hotel, or I do it in the venue where I'm speaking, you know, whatever it is. So I'm saying that to say, join me on Saturdays, 11 o'clock Eastern, preferably 10:55, because maybe I can shout you out, because I shout out a lot of names. And so 10:55, and we go for an hour. Bring on guests. Manny will be on there at some point, because you mentioned Manny. Ken Williams is already booked to be on, so he'll be on. I think in November, and you know, we bring on different guests, or I fly solo, and you know, it varies. But come and join us at you can nothing to sign up for, nothing to register for. Just go to my Twitter page at Principal Kafele. I'll be sitting right here. Go to my Facebook page, Principal Kafele. Go to my other Facebook page at Virtual. Well, I shouldn't say at Virtual AP Leadership Academy, or my YouTube channel, Virtual AP Leadership Academy, and all the previous 71 sessions are on that channel, Virtual AP Leadership Academy. Come join me this Saturday morning. We're going to be rocking.
That is incredible. 18 weeks, and now you're into 71 weeks. So the question behind that is, okay, what's the reason why you ended up going 81 weeks, 71 weeks?
You know, the people kept tuning in, and we were getting new people every week, and the numbers were great. The YouTube numbers, you know, every I think we like 8,000 views every month or every week or month, whatever it is. It's a lot of people watching on YouTube as well, because everybody can't catch it live because they got their lives to live. But the bottom line was, because it grew the way it did, and it became the talk, and everybody's tuning in, and folks are getting jobs because of it and all that kind of thing. I said, well, why would I end this? So then I said, okay, we're going to go to 55 weeks. So that would take me into May of 2021. Thank you. And then when I got there, I was like, man, look at these numbers, man. Look, all these new folks keep tuning in. So I said, okay, let's go to 100 weeks. So we're in 71. But then I said, look, I'm not even going to put a number on it. We're just going to do this thing until it's no longer relevant. You know, so that's where it's at. So to diversify. Awesome. To diversify, that's when I started bringing in the guests. So we got to, and it's principals. You know, it's not like I'm bringing anybody, but after probably the new year, I'm gonna start bringing in some folks who were not principals, and that's why, you know, Manny will be on there at some point, and others.
That's awesome. Well, that is amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. I got one more thing I got to have you do. I have everybody do it on the show. You saw it at the beginning in the intro video. I would love for you to finish the sentence, because you've been talking about it this entire time. Unlocking unlimited potential means
helping a youngster or person, an adult, to tap into themselves, because they were born everything they need. But most of us will go through life never tapping into those gifts and talents that lie dormant within. So helping that youngster to find what's there, as opposed to envying and being jealous of all the other people who have accomplished their own goals. You've got your own stuff within you. You just got to tap into it.
Well said. Well said. Perfect. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I know you're super busy and you have so many other people to inspire in the coming weeks, and so many awesome people, because this work it needs to be out there. It's work that we need now more than ever. You've been doing it for 35 years. I thank you for everything you've done. I appreciate you for joining me on the show. Anybody who's out there, you can check out principalkafele.com. It's at the bottom of the screen. That's where you can find out more information. The website's fantastic. There's tons of offerings, tons of great stuff. Please check it out. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure, my man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. As we all talked about on this show, continue to educate with passion, people, because the journey toward unlocking unlimited potential, it begins with you. Thanks so much for joining me, Principal Kafele. Baruti, have an awesome day. Take care, everybody. Right.